My child, listen carefully. What you are about to hear is not a coincidence, and it is certainly not something that happened by accident. For a long time, you felt a strange distance growing between you and the person who was meant to be in your life. You noticed small changes that made no sense. Conversations that once flowed naturally suddenly became cold and uncertain. Messages became shorter. The energy between you felt different. At first, you tried to convince yourself that it was only temporary, that everyone goes through difficult moments, but deep inside your heart, you knew something else was happening behind the scenes. What you did not realize was that someone had quietly stepped into the shadows and begun creating false stories about you. These stories were not random. They were carefully designed. They were created with one purpose: to separate you from your soulmate before the connection could become stronger. The person responsible did not expect you to discover the truth. They believed their words would remain hidden forever. They believed that if they repeated the lies enough times, people would begin accepting them as facts. And sadly, for a while, that plan seemed to be working. Certain people around your soulmate began hearing things that were completely untrue. Some were told that you had secret intentions. Others were told that you could not be trusted. A few even heard stories that made you appear selfish or dishonest. None of it was real, yet the rumors spread quietly from one person to another, growing larger every time they were repeated. The most painful part was that nobody came directly to you to ask if the stories were true. Instead, they allowed doubt to grow in silence. Don't skip. This next part explains why everything suddenly started feeling different. The person creating these rumors was not acting out of kindness or concern. They were motivated by fear, jealousy, and insecurity. Somewhere deep inside, they saw the connection between you and your soulmate becoming stronger. They saw something beautiful forming. They noticed the emotional bond that neither distance nor time could easily destroy. Instead of celebrating that connection, they felt threatened by it. They worried that once your soulmate fully recognized your value, they would lose influence and control. So they chose a darker path. They began planting seeds of confusion wherever they could. Every rumor was carefully placed like a trap. Every lie was designed to create misunderstanding. Every false story was intended to keep two hearts apart. At first, your soulmate did not know what to believe. They wanted to trust you, but they were hearing conflicting information from people they had known for years. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm while voices from every direction are shouting different versions of the truth. That was the situation they found themselves in. Their heart was telling them one thing, but outside influences were telling them something else. This internal battle created confusion they could not easily explain. Some days they felt closer to you than ever before. Other days they felt overwhelmed by doubt they could not understand. The emotional pressure became exhausting. Meanwhile, the person spreading the rumors grew more confident. Every time they saw hesitation, they believed they were winning. Every time they noticed distance between you and your soulmate, they felt encouraged to continue. They told themselves that eventually the connection would break completely. They imagined a future where your soulmate walked away from you forever. What they failed to understand was that true connections cannot be destroyed by lies forever. Lies may delay the truth, but they can never replace it. Don't skip. Something important happened that nobody expected. As the rumors continued spreading, contradictions began appearing. Different people started hearing different versions of the same story. Details stopped matching. Timelines stopped making sense. Small inconsistencies began raising questions. A few individuals who originally believed the rumors started noticing strange patterns. They wondered why the stories changed every time they were repeated. They wondered why there was never any real evidence behind the accusations. Slowly, doubt began shifting away from you and toward the person creating the rumors. At the same time, your soulmate started paying closer attention to reality instead of gossip. They began comparing what people were saying about you with the person they actually knew. The difference was impossible to ignore. The stories described someone who did not resemble you at all. The more they reflected on their experiences with you, the more confused they became about the rumors. If the stories were true, why had they never witnessed any of those behaviors? If the accusations were accurate, why did their heart keep feeling drawn toward you? These questions became impossible to ignore. What happened next shocked everyone involved. One conversation changed everything. A person who had remained silent for months finally spoke up. They revealed information that exposed the entire situation. They explained where the rumors started. They explained who had been repeating them. Most importantly, they explained why the lies had been created in the first place. The truth spread much faster than anyone expected. Suddenly, people who had once doubted you found themselves questioning everything they had been told. The narrative began collapsing piece by piece. Yet even after the truth started emerging, the emotional damage remained. Trust takes time to rebuild. Hearts wounded by confusion do not heal overnight. Your soulmate found themselves struggling with regret. They wondered how many opportunities had been lost because of misinformation. They wondered how many beautiful moments had been delayed because someone else chose jealousy over honesty. The realization was painful. It forced them to confront the possibility that they had allowed outside voices to influence decisions that should have come from their own heart. Don't skip. The person responsible for the rumors soon discovered that consequences cannot be avoided forever. The same people who once listened to them started demanding answers. Questions became harder to escape. Explanations became more difficult to invent. The web of lies they had spent so much time creating slowly turned against them. Every false statement required another false statement to support it. Every deception created new contradictions. Eventually the weight became impossible to carry. What nobody realized was that this entire situation was preparing something bigger. The separation was never meant to be permanent. The misunderstandings were exposing hidden truths about everyone involved. True intentions were being revealed. Masks were beginning to fall. People who pretended to support the connection were exposing their real motives. People who quietly believed in the connection were finally finding the courage to speak. The entire situation was becoming a test that would reveal who genuinely cared and who only cared about their own interests. And as these revelations continued unfolding, your soulmate began seeing you through a completely different lens. They started recognizing your strength. They noticed how you continued moving forward despite confusion, despite judgment, despite obstacles that were never your fault. They realized that while others were busy spreading rumors, you were simply trying to live honestly. That realization touched something deep within their heart. For the first time in a long while, the fog of confusion began lifting. But the story does not end there. Because someone very close to your soulmate is about to uncover a secret detail that nobody expected to surface. This discovery will connect every rumor, every lie, every hidden conversation, and every unexplained event into one shocking truth. When that truth finally comes into the light, several people will be forced to reveal where they truly stand. Some relationships will change forever. Some alliances will break apart. And one unexpected confession could completely transform the future of this soulmate connection. Don't skip. Because what happened next was something nobody could have predicted. The truth had already started moving quietly through the background, but nobody realized how close it was to exploding into the open. The person who had spent so much time creating rumors believed they still had control over the situation. They thought they could continue manipulating conversations, influencing opinions, and keeping your soulmate trapped inside confusion. But what they did not know was that several people had already begun comparing stories. They had started noticing details that simply did not fit together. The more they looked, the more suspicious everything became. Your soulmate was one of those people. Even though they had heard many things about you, there was one problem that kept bothering them every single day. Their personal experiences with you never matched the stories they were hearing. Every time they remembered a conversation, every time they remembered a moment of kindness, every time they remembered how you treated others, the rumors felt more and more impossible to believe. A battle was taking place inside their heart. One side was influenced by fear and doubt. The other side was influenced by genuine memories and real emotions. The conflict became so intense that they could barely focus on anything else. Meanwhile, the person spreading the lies became desperate. They sensed the shift happening around them. They noticed people asking questions they had never asked before. They noticed certain conversations becoming uncomfortable. Most importantly, they noticed that your soulmate was no longer accepting every story without hesitation. That frightened them. Desperate people often make careless mistakes, and that is exactly what happened. While trying to create another rumor, they accidentally contradicted a lie they had told months earlier. What seemed like a small mistake became the crack that started breaking everything apart. Don't skip. This is where things became emotional. One evening, your soulmate found themselves sitting alone, replaying countless memories in their mind. They remembered moments when they felt understood by you in ways nobody else had ever understood them. They remembered feeling safe around you. They remembered feeling seen. Then they remembered all the negative things they had been told. For the first time, they stopped asking whether the rumors were true and started asking a different question. Why would someone work so hard to make them believe those things? The moment that question entered their mind, everything changed. The answer was closer than they realized. Someone within their circle knew exactly what had happened. This person had remained silent because they feared creating conflict. They feared being dragged into drama. But guilt had become too heavy to carry. Watching two people suffer because of lies was becoming unbearable. Eventually, they decided they could no longer stay quiet. What they revealed shocked your soulmate to the core. They explained that the rumors did not start naturally. They were intentionally created. Certain conversations had been manipulated. Certain statements had been taken out of context. Some stories had been completely fabricated from nothing. Even worse, the person responsible had encouraged others to repeat the rumors while pretending to be concerned. They acted like a friend while secretly causing damage behind the scenes. Hearing this truth felt like the ground disappeared beneath your soulmate's feet. At first, they refused to believe it. The revelation was too shocking. They wanted proof. They wanted evidence. They wanted something undeniable. What happened next gave them exactly that. Messages surfaced. Screenshots appeared. Conversations that were supposed to remain hidden suddenly became visible. Piece by piece, the evidence started telling a story far different from the one they had been hearing for months. The emotional impact was overwhelming. Imagine discovering that someone you trusted had intentionally influenced your perception of another person. Imagine realizing that your decisions may have been shaped by lies instead of truth. That realization hit your soulmate harder than anyone expected. They felt anger. They felt sadness. They felt regret. But above all else, they felt betrayed. Don't skip. Because the betrayal was even deeper than it appeared. The person spreading rumors was not simply jealous of your connection. They had their own personal reasons for wanting distance between you and your soulmate. Reasons they never revealed publicly. Hidden motives that nobody suspected. As more information surfaced, people started realizing that this situation was never about protecting anyone. It was about control. It was about influence. It was about keeping certain people dependent on them emotionally. Suddenly, many past events started making sense. Strange comments that once seemed harmless now looked suspicious. Unexpected disagreements now appeared intentional. Certain misunderstandings that had damaged the connection no longer felt random. It was like looking at a puzzle after finding the missing pieces. Everything connected. As the truth continued spreading, tension grew within the family circle surrounding your soulmate. Conversations became difficult. People began taking sides. Some admitted they had always doubted the rumors but were afraid to speak up. Others confessed they had believed the stories without questioning them. A few people felt ashamed for helping spread information that was never verified. The atmosphere became emotionally charged. Relationships that seemed stable suddenly faced serious challenges. Your soulmate found themselves at the center of it all. Everywhere they looked, they saw evidence of how much confusion had been created. The realization broke their heart. They started thinking about every opportunity that had been missed. Every conversation that never happened. Every moment that could have brought the two of you closer but instead pushed you further apart. Those thoughts haunted them. Yet something else was happening at the same time. Beneath the sadness, a stronger feeling was growing. Determination. For the first time in a very long time, they wanted answers directly from you instead of from other people. They wanted to hear your side. They wanted to understand everything that had happened. The desire to reconnect became stronger than the fear that had previously held them back. But before they could take that step, another shocking discovery emerged. Someone uncovered evidence showing that the rumors had reached far beyond what anyone imagined. Conversations had taken place behind closed doors. Private discussions had occurred without your knowledge. Certain individuals had been encouraged to distance themselves from you long before your soulmate ever heard the first rumor. The scale of the manipulation stunned everyone. Don't skip. Because this next revelation changed everything. One family member who had been extremely skeptical about you suddenly became one of your strongest supporters. After seeing the evidence, they realized they had been misled. Instead of remaining silent, they decided to defend you publicly. Their voice carried weight within the family. When they spoke, people listened. Their support created a chain reaction. Others who had been hesitant finally started admitting the truth. The person responsible for the lies watched all of this happen in disbelief. Their influence was slipping away. Their carefully constructed narrative was collapsing. Every attempt to regain control only created more suspicion. Every explanation sounded weaker than the last. The very people they once manipulated were beginning to question everything they said. Meanwhile, your soulmate could not stop thinking about you. Every new revelation pushed them closer toward a conclusion they had been avoiding for months. The connection they felt was real. The feelings they tried to suppress were real. The bond that survived all the rumors was real. No amount of gossip could erase that truth. Late one night, while everyone else was asleep, they found themselves staring at old messages, old memories, and old moments they had nearly forgotten. Each memory carried emotional weight. Each memory reminded them of what had been lost because of lies. The realization became impossible to ignore. They had spent so much time listening to other people's opinions that they forgot to trust their own heart. And that is when something extraordinary happened. A decision was made. A decision nobody else knew about. A decision that would set a series of events into motion. Your soulmate decided they could no longer remain passive. They could no longer allow rumors to dictate the future. They needed the truth directly from the source. They needed closure. They needed answers. And perhaps, deep inside, they hoped for something even more than answers. Because while everyone else was focused on exposing the lies, your soulmate was beginning to realize something far more important. Despite every obstacle, despite every rumor, despite every attempt to separate the two of you, their feelings had never completely disappeared. But there is still one secret nobody has revealed yet. One conversation remains hidden. One person knows information that could completely change the direction of this story. And when that conversation finally comes to light, your soulmate will be forced to make a choice that could affect the rest of their future.